Because it's been such a slow day, I assume the fish would want a slow bite or slow hand twist retrieve or different flies, and that hasn't worked. So I'm just going to start cooking through this water, and you can see how fast I'm kind of moving. Point that over to shore a little bit, and you can, that's kind of hard to tell, but moving along at about the pace that you would walk at, kind of just a regular walking speed. We'll see if we can entice some fish as this water maybe warms up a little bit more in the shallows. Well, you can see that on camera, but the weeds are just really tall in here. So this upper area is kind of good for that intermediate line, so we're not catching the top of the weeds and snagging. But yeah, it's pretty shallow right here. I bet I'm, 50 feet offshore, and I bet it's only 6 feet down to the top of the weed beds. I can't tell you by comparison how much faster I can cover the water in this tube. It's insane though. I can probably move twice as fast as I can in my big metal frame pontoon. And I know I keep going off about the differences, but man, I'd be paddling away. I didn't even have to paddle that hard to get all the way over to the other side of this lake, pond, whatever you want to call it. But just a quick little couple-minute jaunt, and here I am. So we're just going to work these weed beds and see if there's any feeders in here. You never know. And the way I like to do these little weed beds is I'll just cast up to the shore, let it sink for, oh man, probably not more than 10 seconds. And then we'll just get the rod tip back in the water and then strip the line out, give it a couple of quick little tugs, and then we'll start to paddle, and that'll bring the fly line in and around, and you got to watch for them when it gets straight, because sometimes they'll hit it on the whip. So when you're fishing this shallow water, kind of got to be careful, because if you don't keep moving fast enough, your line will sink down and you'll start hitting the tops of those weeds, and you don't want to have snags. So pretty much I'm only giving it like a 10 count or a 12 count, and I keep my line in line with my rod, just like you would with a dry line. And then as I start to paddle, I'll kind of keep my rod tip pointed there, keep moving, and then we'll give it a couple of strips to pull it up in case it got a little bit too deep. And then we'll just keep trolling or stop and strip it in. But whatever you do, you can't just quit moving in this shallow weed bed stuff, or it'll grab you'll just snag up. You'll think it's a bite, but then you got to pull and check and make sure and recast, because anytime you're fishing with moss on the end of the fly or a stick or anything, that even the dumbest of fish won't take that. So I got the wind blowing on me a little bit now, trying to send me over to that ice sheet, and I kind of think if I was in my normal tube, it'd be maybe a losing battle. I'd start getting a little closer to that sheet. It's a lot closer than it looks. I don't know if I can zoom in. That's what it looks like to me. That wide angle lens makes it look like it's a quarter mile away, and that's probably, I don't know, 30 yards really. So we're going to paddle around that ice sheet and just be a little bit safe, because it's just not worth messing around. But I fished all the shallows. We hit all this shoreline all the way across the middle, fished that little cove, and I fished all that all the way back down over by the truck, clear down to the point. So maybe one bite in there, maybe two, couldn't really tell, but really slow. And even worse than that, the only thing I've seen so far is a beaver. But the only other place these fish could be is down in the deep, maybe down by the dam, and maybe that's the next place to go try. So we're deep enough here that I can't see the top of the weed bed. I can barely see it here and there. So I'm going to let a little bit of line out, and I just want to drag over the top of that, maybe by about a foot. You can see my line here. I tug, and then it pulls taut. And I could be going a little bit